Good afternoon. My name is Jason Chavez, and I'm the chair of the Committee of the Whole. I'm going to call to order our regular committee meeting for Tuesday, July 16th. Before we begin the meeting, I want to offer a friendly reminder to all members, staff, and the public that these meetings are broadcasted live in order to enable greater public participation. These broadcasts include real-time captioning as a further method to increase the accessibility of our proceedings to the community. Therefore, all speakers need to be mindful of the rate of their speech so that our captioners can fully capture and transcribe all comments for the broadcast. We ask all speakers to moderate the speed and clarity of their comments. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll to verify the presence of a quorum.
Councilmember Payne.
Present.
Wansley.
Present.
Rainville.
Present.
Vita.
Present.
Ellison is absent. Osman is absent. Cashman.
Present.
Jenkins.
Present.
Chugtai.
Present.
Koski.
Present.
Palmisano.
Present.
Vice Chair Chowdhury.
Present.
And Chair Chavez.
Present.
There are 11 members present.
Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. We have 4 items on the agenda today, in addition to our reports of committees that have met this cycle. Item number 1 is consideration of the revocation of the on-sale liquor with limited entertainment on Sunday sales license due to outstanding taxes owed to the Minnesota Department of Revenue. I will ask Joe Fussy, Deputy City Attorney, to explain this item. I will also, if we have anybody else, maybe from our CPET department.
Do you have his email?
I can give a little brief overview of this too, clerk. If you can help me, that might be helpful. But there are some issues with payment with this item, and this business has until Thursday at the beginning, I believe, of full council to solve this issue. So I was already going to move this item without recommendation so we can make a final decision on this item on Thursday that is required per state law. If there are questions that members have, I would ask that you refer to the email that was sent by our city attorneys, and if the clerk maybe wants to add a little bit thing, but I was just going to move this forward without recommendation unless members of this body have any questions. Okay. This is also a public hearing, so I will open this hearing. Is there anybody here today that wants to speak? Anybody else from this body that wants to speak on this item? Cool. Seeing that no one else wishes to speak on this item, I will close the public hearing and move this item forward without recommendation so we can make a final decision this Thursday. And as a reminder, I may just completely remove this from the agenda on Thursday if this is solved by Thursday at the beginning of council. Okay, with my motion to move this forward without recommendation to full council, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Any abstention? That motion carries. All right, members, item number 2 on the agenda for today is the 2023 annual report from the Ethical Practices Board. There will not be a presentation, but staff are here if any of my colleagues have any questions on the items that is posted on LIMS. Does anybody have any questions regarding item number 2? Seeing none, I will direct the clerk to file that report. Our third item is a status report on the implementation of administrative reforms for the appointed boards and commission. I'll ask City Clerk Casey Carl to come up and present that for us. Welcome, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Casey Carl. I have the privilege of serving as clerk of the City of Minneapolis. Joining me today in the audience are members of the Board and Commission Implementation Team, Assistant Clerk Jackie Hansen, our Project Coordinator Julie Hovland, as well as Assistant City Attorney Andrea Neff. As the Chair indicated, we're here to provide a status report about work to implement reforms that this Council and the Mayor approved for the City's boards and commissions. So today's presentation will present a summary of those reforms that were approved. We'll also share work that's been completed thus far and some of the major work still underway. We'll share a timeline and then outline next steps. This slide summarizes the reforms approved with the enactment of Ordinance Number 2023-54. As you can see, there were basically 6 categories of reforms. First and foremost, the ordinance created a classification system to distinguish between types of boards and commissions using 5 tiers. The tiers are determined by a number of factors, including the legal authority under which a specific body is created. So, for example, state law, city charter, or general municipal authority. The mandate or primary purpose of the body, the degree of autonomy and independent decision-making authority it has, and its general responsibilities in relationship to the enterprise. This reform is the only one that is universally applicable to all boards, commissions, and appointed bodies within the city enterprise. For convenience, I'll sometimes refer to these appointed boards and commissions as ABCs. Second, the ordinance affirms the city's existing open appointments policy, first adopted in 1976, as well as roles and responsibilities of the mayor and the city council as the city's appointing authorities. It also clarifies administrative procedures. The expressed intent of the city's open appointments policy is to create and support organizations that enhance community engagement in the city's decision-making process. It strives to assure that the most suitable candidates are nominated in a principles-based, consistently implemented, and fairly administered way. The open appointments policy applies to all city boards and commissions unless expressly waived by legal authority or by an act of the mayor and council. Third, it establishes expectations as well as specific restrictions for service on the city's ABCs. These are applicable both to those individuals who are appointed as well as to the boards and commissions themselves. These expectations and restrictions are intended to support the city's commitment to assuring that boards and commissions continue to provide meaningful opportunities for public participation, and that such opportunities enable the broadest and the most inclusive representation of the community as possible. Fourth, the ordinance designates the city clerk as the executive secretary for ABCs, except where those responsibilities are assigned elsewhere. The responsibilities of the executive secretary are grouped into 3 categories. First, as the official responsible for administering the open appointment policy and assisting appointing authorities with making nominations and appointments. Second, as the official responsible for overseeing essential record-keeping and meeting management functions, including the issuance of notices, the production of agendas and minutes, and the retention of records according to applicable laws and policies. And third, as the official responsible for overall program management and direction across the enterprise with respect to the city's boards and commissions. Fifth, the ordinance provides for standard bylaws and rules for ABCs to provide uniform, consistent meeting management practices and to tie the operations of all boards and commissions within the city enterprise more closely in alignment with the mayor and council. Bylaws and rules must be jointly approved by council and the specific board and commission, and that applies to any amendments over time as well. Finally, as a further means of bringing boards and commissions in closer alignment with the council, we are requiring 2 reports each year. First, a report of anticipated work to be addressed, and second, at the end of a year, a report on the accomplishments against that formal work plan. These reports will be compiled by the clerk's office and presented publicly to the city council each year and maintained as a public document to showcase the work of the city's myriad appointed boards and commissions. All of these reforms become effective July 31st of this year. That means that for much of the remainder of this year, we will be operating in a hybrid environment where some, but not all of the reforms are being actively administered and enforced as we work to bring forward new resolutions to recreate our existing Tier 3 and Tier 4 bodies. So next we'll talk about work that's been completed by the team thus far. I noted that we had a team working on implementing these reforms. This work is being led primarily by Assistant Clerk Jackie Hansen, with primary support from our project coordinator, Julie Hovland. In the clerk's office, we have also retained Anita Roby to help with the day-to-day and week-to-week coordination of all of our ABCs, and have also detailed Rachel Hansen from our department's in-house technology and design team to provide technical support on systems and design issues. And as I also stated, we have the strong support of our assigned Assistant City Attorney, Andrea Neff. The team has successfully completed the actions shown on this slide in preparation for the initial rollout of ABC reforms. First, we've classified all of our existing ABCs using the standard or the adopted classification system, placing each of our boards and commissions into one of the 5 tiers based on the classification criteria. Second, we've drafted a template resolution to be used to create or to recreate bodies in tiers 3 and 4. That template provides a consistent structure to assure that we capture all of the required and essential details whenever a new Tier 3 or Tier 4 body is created. Third, we've completed the draft of standard bylaws and rules for Tier 3 and Tier 4 bodies. And finally, we've completed a participant agreement, which was anticipated by the ordinance and identifies the expectations for service on city boards and commissions by all individuals who are appointed. I'm going to go over each of these items separately in the next few slides. So the next 4 slides all pertain to the classification of boards and commissions. As already explained, the only universal reform in our ordinance applicable across all of our boards and commissions is this new classification system. That system includes 5 tiers, each of which helps to define a body based on a number of factors, as I've already explained. The ordinance directs the city clerk to classify all existing boards and commissions prior to the effective date of the ordinance. And again, that effective date is July 31st. After the effective date, the city clerk is responsible for providing a report on the necessity for and the impact of the creation of any new board, commission, or work group, and for classifying that body using the same criteria. As indicated, we completed the classification of all existing bodies using that criteria from the ordinance. A separate document was included in your briefing materials that shows the classification for all 57 of our existing boards and commissions. That memo also briefly describes each of the 5 tiers according to classification factors and indicates which of the reforms from the ordinance are applicable to the various bodies based on their respective tiers. The ordinance requires that the city clerk classify existing boards and commissions. I've submitted my classification of all 57 of those bodies with this memo, and no further action is required under the ordinance at this time. In the next few slides, I'll highlight some of the key issues for each of the 5 tiers that are created under the ordinance. Bodies in Tier 1 are not subject to any of the adopted administrative reforms. And that's because these bodies are created by authority outside of the city and therefore are not subject to the city's regulation. Or they are bodies composed entirely of council members and therefore provide no opportunity for public participation and engagement, which is a key qualifying factor in our tier classification system. From my memo, you can see that we've identified 5 bodies in Tier 1. These include the city's Board of Estimate and Taxation and the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board of Commissioners, both of which, as you know, are created under special laws that were then codified in the city's first Home Rule Charter in 1920. These bodies are composed of officials elected by the city's voters, and they operate entirely independently and with complete autonomy from the City Council. Similarly, Tier 1 includes the Civil Service Commission and the Local Board of Appeal and Equalization, as well as the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority. All of these bodies are created under permissive state laws, and for the first of these 2 are codified in the city charter. In addition to these Tier 1 bodies, my memo indicates or identifies a number of bodies to which none of the adopted reforms are applicable and which are not included in any of the tiers. That's because these bodies do not serve within the city enterprise. We've identified them because the city does, in certain instances, make appointments to these bodies, and those appointments need to be tracked. However, except for making appointments, the city has no authority over these bodies. Therefore, we've grouped them into a non-tier category merely so we can continue to track and report on the bodies as necessary. You'll see that 3 of these bodies are actually bodies that are composed entirely of council members, which from a legal perspective are still separate and distinct from the city council itself. Those include the City Canvassing Board, the Minneapolis Community Development Agency, and the Minneapolis Community Health Board. Tier 2 bodies are those which are established under the city's home rule authority, which are created by ordinance, and which have been delegated a high degree of decision-making authority within a defined sphere of municipal policy, subject to the general authority and oversight of the mayor and council. We sometimes refer to these as independent bodies because they operate with a significant degree of autonomy, but not complete autonomy from the city council. The key difference then between Tier 1 and Tier 2 is that these bodies in Tier 2 are appointed by mayor and council and are subject to its general control. Generally, only the reforms related to executive secretary and mandated reports apply to the bodies in Tier 2. Of the city's existing ABCs, this tier then includes the Audit Committee, which, as you know, is an independent body created or required by the city charter and formally created by ordinance of the mayor and council. The city's 3 planning bodies, that's the Planning Commission, the Heritage Preservation Commission, and the Zoning Board of Adjustment, the Civil Rights Commission, the Ethical Practices Board, the Community Commission on Police Oversight, and the Neighborhood Revitalization Program Policy Board created by special state law. I'll also note that most, but not all, of these bodies have meetings that are broadcast by the city and made available for on-demand replay as a means of providing greater access for the public and participation. This reflects the higher level of delegated policymaking authority that these bodies exercise. And most of these bodies are staffed by the city clerk's office directly, rather than by staff and departments of the city's administration. These factors help to tie these quasi-independent policymaking bodies more closely and directly to the city council and align them with the council's formal policymaking functions. Tiers 3 and 4 are subject to all of the adopted administrative reforms, so will be the most impacted by this work. These tiers include the city's advisory bodies and working groups, respectively. Our primary focus in these reforms is about the first phase of implementation by reformulating them through new resolutions. So over the rest of the year, we hope to bring forward those new resolutions to recreate all of these ABCs in a uniform manner before the end of the year. A key factor that unifies both Tier 3 and Tier 4 bodies is their lack of any independent authority or any autonomy from City Council. These bodies have limited subject matter jurisdictions and function primarily as advisory bodies to the mayor and council. They are under the complete control and direction of the mayor and council, and they are staffed by departments in the city's administration. You'll note that Tier 3 includes 18 existing bodies. This is the largest category of ABCs under the ordinance. 2 of these bodies currently are established by ordinance, but we believe should be reestablished with resolutions to be consistent with the criteria that was adopted as part of the ordinance. Those are indicated as the Arts Commission and the Capital Long Range Improvement Committee. And here I think it's important to pause and emphasize a few key points about the new classification system, because there has been some misperceptions about what the tiers may infer or mean. First, the tiers are merely a means of classifying ABCs. The classification system then enables the mayor and the council to craft policies targeting specific types of bodies based on their classification in the tier system. Those tiers are determined by specific criteria, which includes, as I've said, the legal basis for an appointed body, its mandate or primary purpose, the degree of autonomy or independence from the city council, and its general responsibilities and relationship to the city enterprise. What the classification system does not do is evaluate or determine the importance or the relative value of a specific body, either to the city enterprise, to its elected officials, or to the community. The tiers do not indicate a preference or a favorability status. Those are simply not factors part of the adopted classification system. To be blunt, all city boards and commissions are important and add value. Otherwise, we wouldn't have them. The classification system also does not address or make determinations about ancillary matters, such as stipends, food or meal allowances, paid parking or travel reimbursements, and similar matters. The classification system also does not pertain to, nor does it impact, the city's commitment to diversifying the memberships of all of its ABCs. That is important work that complements but is separate from these administrative and operational reforms. All of these have been identified as important issues by board staffers over the past many years, and absolutely none of them are addressed by the reform ordinance. And I have consistently stated this on multiple occasions. Decisions like those are primarily policy and budget decisions within the authority of the mayor and council. The city does not currently allocate a central budget to support boards and commissions. To the extent that funding is required, it is the responsibility of the supporting department to ask for and to advocate for those funds as part of their operating budgets. I don't believe that's necessarily the best approach because it tends to pit boards and commissions against the regular services and programs by departments. It also tends to create gaps between larger departments that have greater resources against smaller departments with fewer resources. And it fails to provide a consistent funding base for all boards and commissions, but does tend to create a perceived favoritism between them. But again, those are issues not addressed in the reform ordinance, and those issues are not decided with the adopted classification system. Those are policy and budget decisions and can only be addressed by the mayor and council. I also want to indicate I appreciate feedback that the tier system can be interpreted to imply preference or favor because of the numerical indicators, tier 1 through 5. I'll remind council that our first approach was to use a standard naming convention, which would have divided all bodies into groups using the terms commissions, boards, and work groups. But early feedback from staff assigned to boards and commissions strongly opposed that standardized naming convention. So we opted for the tier system because it was perceived at that time to be more neutral. However, no system, whether using names or numbers, is perfect and will inevitably have the potential for some to perceive meaning where none is intended. And I think that's the case here. So I want to again state for the record, the tiers in the classification system do not indicate status or preference, value or importance. The tiers reflect how a body is created, its delegated authority, its primary purpose, its degree of independence or autonomy from the council, and the relationship that it has to the city enterprise. Nothing more. As I indicated, the team has also finalized a template resolution to be used to create Tier 3 and Tier 4 bodies. The first phase of implementation is focused on these bodies. The template resolution will enable us to standardize the key details that are required when creating a new body or when recreating the existing bodies, which, as I said, will be our primary focus for the rest of this year. A copy of the template resolution is included in your briefing materials for reference, and no further action is required at this time. The implementation team also has completed a standard set of ABC bylaws and rules. As noted, this is a key component of the reforms to help bring uniformity, predictability, and consistency to all of our ABCs. This will benefit the ABCs and their members, the staff supporting them, and the public at large. You've heard me describe the city charter as being the city's constitution. In a similar way, the enabling legislation that creates each ABC is that body's version of a constitution. The bylaws are an extension of that enabling legislation and provide additional details about its structure and its operation. The rules provide a consistent manner for how meetings are planned and conducted. And having this level of uniformity for all of our city boards and commissions provides consistency in how they operate, predictability in terms of how meetings are conducted, and they help to tie their work more closely to city council. We've submitted for your consideration the standard bylaws and rules, which require your approval. And I mentioned, I believe, at the last meeting of the Public Health and Safety Committee that we had the good fortune, because of timing, to work very closely with the Community Commission on Police Oversight in developing these standard bylaws by helping them to develop the bylaws that they recently adopted and have submitted for consideration by the City Council. Those bylaws then become the basis for standard bylaws to be used for all of our boards and commissions as extensions of this work. The final piece of work that was completed by the implementation team is the preparation of a participant agreement. This was a new component introduced as part of the reform ordinance. However, it's been discussed for many years amongst key staff. The participant agreement captures the city's service expectations and restrictions for people who are appointed to our ABCs. It clearly identifies the standards of conduct that the city expects of all of its boards and commissions members. It emphasizes that duties of ABC members are to be undertaken with professionalism, diligence, and due care, and that service is to advance the needs of the community and all residents, and not the personal interests of ABC members. As dictated by ordinance, the agreement must be completed by every individual appointed to a city board or commission within 90 days of appointment. If not, the seat is considered vacant and a new appointment process can begin. The city attorney's office has prepared that agreement, and we're submitting a copy for your reference. No further action is required under the ordinance. Next, I'll pivot to work that's underway for the remainder of 2024. As you can see on this slide, we have 4 major buckets of work that we are pursuing. First, as I've said several times, we're preparing to engage with the Tier 3 advisory boards and Tier 4 working groups to bring forward new resolutions to recreate them consistently using the criteria that was provided in the ordinance. This is our top priority for the rest of the year. Our project coordinator, Julie Hovland, is the lead on this work, and once we've had working drafts prepared, we will be reaching out to engage with the ABCs and their staff before bringing those new resolutions forward to City Council. Second, we are reviewing and making refinements to the ABC orientation program. It was last used in, I believe, 2016. This is a key provision in the reform ordinance to assure that all ABC members have a successful onboarding and are set up for success. We want to provide clear and consistent messaging about the roles of the city's boards and commissions, their operations, and how they work within the city enterprise. We're also looking to leverage technology to make that program accessible with an online option. Our third bucket of work is considering improvements in the application review, internal vetting, and nomination processes. This is another point that was discussed recently at the Public Health and Safety Committee, specifically with respect to the recent appointment process or application period for the Community Commission on Police Oversight. These issues about the application, internal vetting, and nomination processes were discussed during the development of the reform ordinance, but without any definitive conclusions. It's important nonetheless, and it ties to our larger goals of ensuring that our city's boards and commissions and all of their members are set up for success before they're created, before they're appointed, and before they begin to serve. Finally, we're laying the foundation for future reforms targeting Tier 2 bodies, which will necessitate individualized reforms by separate ordinances. Based on lessons learned in this first phase, we hope to streamline that work in advance of next year. This slide provides an anticipated timeline for that implementation, including the work I've presented today. As you can see, and as I've noted many times, our primary focus is on completing the reestablishment of Tier 3 bodies with new enabling resolutions. We will also be continuing to advance work on the other matters I just summarized, which will be our primary focus leading into 2025 and beyond. It is very ambitious work. And I'll remind Council on that point that the adopted reforms last year were developed over a period of more than 10 years. It took significant efforts by many leaders across the enterprise to shepherd those reforms through to adoption. And on that point, I'd like to recognize and extend my thanks for the leadership to Councilmember Jenkins, as well as my former colleague, the NCR Director David Rubador, the tremendous work of my own Assistant Clerk Jackie Hansen, and our entire team in the Clerk's office, our colleagues in the City Attorney's office, which has included Susan Trammell, Carol Bashoon, and Andrea Neff. And of course, much credit to the contributions of former and current staff across the enterprise who work directly with and support our many boards and commissions, and who work to ensure that those bodies are able to conduct their work on behalf of the people of Minneapolis. With that, Mr. Chair, I've completed my presentation and am happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I do have a few questions. If you could help me understand 3.1 and 3.2. I assume 3.1 is the presentation that we're going to receive and file that you just presented. 3.2 is approving the standard bylaws and rules. Can you point to us on LIMS what file that is? Is that the one that talks about the classification of Minneapolis appointed boards and commissions, or?
If you're on the agenda and click on the link that goes to the LIMS file for today's item, there should be under supporting documentations, I believe 2 separate linked entries, one that says standard ABC bylaws and one that might say standard rules. Those are the draft bylaws and rules we're presenting for your approval. that then would become the standard bylaws and rules for each of the boards and commissions in tiers 3 and 4. Those bylaws and rules, along with the new resolutions recreating those tier 3, tier 4 bodies, all have to come back to this body. The action today is giving basic blessing to the standard form of bylaws and rules.
Thank you. To clarify, the tier system isn't being decided today. That's going to come before the council after this process.
Mr. Chair, to clarify, the tier system has already been adopted. It was adopted as part of the ordinance last year.
Yep.
And so the only actions we're requesting today that were required under the ordinance is the approval of the standard bylaws and rules. Everything else is a receive and file as directed by the ordinance.
Okay. Thank you. Members, is anybody else on queue? I'll pass it. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I'll pass it to Councilmember Jenkins.
Thank you, Chair Chavez, and thank you, Clerk Carl, for your tremendous shepherding of this process over many, many years. You've named all of the folks that have contributed to this process, and I want to just echo those statements of gratitude. And it's really complex, but I think it helps us to streamline the appointment process. It also helps to provide more diversity and voices to the boards and commissions that help us think about various topics and concerns that the city has. And so just want to express my gratitude for your work in this process and all those involved.
On behalf of that whole team, I'll say thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Cashman.
Thank you, Chair Chavez, and thank you,
Also,
Clerk Carl.
and before you continue, sorry, Councilmember Cashman, I have on my list to make sure that the clerks note that Councilmember Ellison is here, and I've been forgetting to note that. So you may proceed, Councilmember Cashman. Sorry.
No problem. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I was not on the council when the reform ordinance was passed, so this is very helpful for me. You know, council members make a lot of appointments to these boards and commissions, and I take that really seriously. Want to do my due diligence with interviewing the candidates and making sure that, you know, I'm working with them, aware of their meetings, able to attend, et cetera. So I do have some questions for you, just based on questions I have from community as well. So one question I wanted to ask, follow up to Councilmember Jenkins, is how does the reform add to diversity and inclusion on the boards and commissions?
Through the chair, Councilmember Cashman, when we adopted this last year, I stated this reform ordinance in itself does not advance goals around diversity. It does indirectly because it requires that, or it limits service on multiple boards by one individual. So if you're going to diversify the memberships of boards and commissions, that diversification needs opportunity. And when we started this work, when I first came to the city in 2010, as an example, there might be one member appointed by a council member to 5, 6, 7, 10, 12 different boards. That means one person is holding that many seats. And we also found that individuals would hold multiple seats on multiple boards for multiple terms. And so the voices that were advising mayor and council were fewer. They were the same people. We, working with NCR, started a process of doing a self-disclosed survey about demographics of the members that we've appointed to boards and commissions. And in the first 2 reporting cycles, as I recall, what we were able to show is that the demographics of people appointed to the city's boards and commissions did not align or match with the demographics of the broader city. I believe it was on our 3rd report that we brought forward to council since starting that survey, where we showed tremendous work by staff. And so the applicant pool that the staff had gone out and recruited aligned very, very closely, if not exactly, with the demographics of the city. But the people who had actually been appointed by the mayor and council still did not reflect those demographics. And so it took us 1 or 2 more cycles before we got to the point where I believe coming out of COVID, NCR's first report back said that we are now very, very close to matching the demographics of the city. And in fact, where we would target greater efforts to diversify now are no longer around specific, what I'll call the big categories, but now are looking at new categories like youth involvement and renters versus homeowners. So the original types of criteria that we were evaluating and surveying on, we've done a good job of diversifying that representation, but there are new opportunities that I believe NCR, who takes the lead on that work, not the clerk's office, is identifying for further improvements.
Thank you. Which demographic did you look at? Race and gender? Did you go beyond that? Is there an income category?
Through the chair, yes, I don't have those categories off the top of my head, but I recall that race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation and identification, home ownership status, income, educational levels, there were 8 or 9 different criteria that were included in those surveys and reported out publicly, I believe initially on an every other year basis. During COVID, that stopped. And so coming out of COVID, we were, I think, pleased to see that we'd actually made improvements on the diversification of our boards and commissions, despite the fact that we were in a completely remote environment.
Thank you. Can you explain the decision to disallow city employees from serving on the appointed boards and commissions?
Yes, through the chair. City employees have lots of opportunities day to day, 8 hours a day or whatever their shift is, to influence city policy, program delivery, services. And so in order to, again, provide more opportunities at the table for residents to have an opportunity, we said those seats should be reserved for residents, that residents should hold the voting seats on boards and commissions. Staff certainly are expected to attend those meetings and contribute their professional knowledge and skills to the work of those boards and commissions, but not as members of the body, as staff to the body. So it was clarifying the distinguishing factor of you staff those boards, but you don't serve as voting members of those boards.
Thank you. Can you explain the rules around open meeting law for these groups? Do the same rules apply for these groups as for us, that you can't be having a conversation with a quorum, constituted quorum of your group without it being publicly noticed?
Through the chair, very broadly, yes. The open meeting law does apply directly to the council, to committees of the council, and to certain boards and commissions. It doesn't apply uniformly to all boards and commissions. And so what we did in the ordinance that creates these reforms is apply what I'll call a light version of the Minnesota open meeting law to all boards and commissions. So if a board or commission is covered by the law, it's covered by the law and must comply with all of those requirements. If it isn't directly covered by the Minnesota open meeting law, we've provided within our own ordinance similar requirements in terms of advance notice, public ability to attend and observe meetings, quorum issues, and things of those nature. So where it applies directly, the law will continue to apply to those boards and commissions, and where it doesn't directly apply, we have through the ordinance made similar provisions applicable to all of our boards and commissions.
Thank you. And I just have 3 more questions, Chair Chavez. So
Go ahead.
thanks for indulging me. How does the reform address any boards or commissions that have a large number of vacancies? There are some that may no longer be necessary, and that's reflected in the fact that no one's actually applying to serve on them anymore. Is there a level at which, if the board or commission is like half vacant or at a certain level of vacancy, that it itself retires?
Through the chair, Councilor Cashman, the ordinance provides maybe 2 mechanisms that address this. First and foremost, before any new board or commission is created, the city clerk is required to provide a report on the need or the necessity for a new board. If there is an existing board that can accommodate the work and that has a subject matter jurisdiction similar to what's being proposed for a new board, then we would not create a new board, and we would put those new functions to the existing board. So it puts a cap on, let's not create boards for the sake of boards, so we don't have 2, 3, or 4 different boards advising the mayor and council on housing issues. We have one board that takes that issue. Secondly, it requires the clerk to do a regular review of all existing boards and commissions on a rotating 3-year cycle to say, is that board or commission still relevant? Is it still pursuing a mission that is relevant to the city? Is it aligned with city goals? If not, then the clerk would bring forward reports to the mayor and council to say it might be time to sunset that board or commission. So those 2 approaches, I think, first by, at the very beginning of a proposal to create a new board, say, wait, is there an existing board that could do this work? And then 2, from a required regular periodic review of all boards and commissions that do exist, to say, are they still fulfilling a functional need of the city enterprise? That will address the issue of lack of quorum, lack of interest. Is it still necessary to have that board or commission?
Thanks. For various tiers of ABCs, are there a difference in how many seats in the body are appointed by the mayor versus council? And are there any ABCs that have appointments made beyond the mayor and council?
Chair Chavez, Councilmember Cashman, it's a very interesting point that you've just raised. One of the reasons this reform was important, at least from my perspective, is that we have created over many, many years different boards and commissions and decided that some have members that are entirely appointed by the mayor, some have members that are entirely appointed by the council, some have a representation of mayor and council. We actually have some that go through our open appointments process but are not appointed by the mayor or the council at all, and are appointed actually by departments. Which begs the question, are these city boards and commissions, or are they advisory to these departments? And who appoints them and why? And so in looking at each legislation that creates each board or commission, when we bring that forward, we'll have recommendations on whether that board is necessary. If it is, we would look to standardize the membership between the mayor and council so that we can get away from some boards that are entirely appointed by the mayor, some that are entirely appointed by the council. We also have some boards where there are 7 seats to be appointed by the council. Well, there are 13 council members. That creates some struggle right there. Which council members get to make those appointments? And in the past, it's been whoever is most closely interested in that body, and they bring forward their recommendations. But that means one or a handful of council members have a disproportionate influence on that board or commission versus the body of the council. So those are all things that as we bring forward those resolutions to recreate these boards, we'll be addressing with you.
Thank you. And last question, how much of a departure from existing rules and bylaws are these new standard template documents?
Through the chair, I'd say that's a hard question to answer because many of our boards and commissions have bylaws or rules, may not have both sets. We have, over the course of many decades, allowed boards and commissions to develop their own bylaws. We don't control those. That's one of the reasons we said the mayor and the council must approve your bylaws and any amendments, because by amending their own bylaws, they were expanding their spheres of responsibility, which we did not authorize, we meaning the council and mayor. The boards themselves are doing that through bylaws amendments. And so part of this, as I said several times, is to tie those boards and commissions and their work more closely to the mayor and council by saying bylaws and rules are about governance, and the city council is the lead actor in that regard for the city enterprise.
Thank you, Clerk Carl and Chair Chavez.
I would also mention, Mr. Chair, just in response to a lot of these, there is in your packet a link called FAQs, and I would encourage you to look over the FAQs. We have, over the last 3 years, been working with the board staff to sort of field questions and concerns and issues that they've had, and that document has continued to evolve with answers to the questions that are raised to us by the board staff and also by boards themselves through their staff.
Thanks.
Awesome, thank you. I'll pass it on to Vice Chair Chowdhury.
Thank you, Chair Chavez, and thank you, Mr. Clerk Carl, for your presentation and your work on this. I just kind of wanted to take a second to acknowledge all the time and effort that went behind this reform, and also thank our team in the clerk's office for all of their work. I know you have been supporting and advising our boards and commissions for some time, just with different best practices, getting them up to date on parliamentary procedure, helping them with scheduling, all of the things, even if that wasn't duly the role that the clerks were set to play. So I just wanted to offer my appreciation for that. The only question that I have, and it may be worthwhile finding it in the FAQ, but you touched a little bit on the process for sunsetting boards and commissions, and you mentioned a process that would include the mayor and city council. I'm kind of wondering if that exists in the rules that are before us. I was searching for it a little bit. If it doesn't, what's the thought process on creating a process or thinking about a process?
Through the chair to the vice chair, Councilmember Chowdhury, it's not within the bylaws and rules because those are narrowly focused on the boards and commissions themselves. But under the provisions of that ordinance, the sunsetting of a body would follow the reverse course of creating one. So to create a new board, based on whichever tier it is, a new ordinance or a new resolution would have to come through the process, the legislative process, and be approved by the council and approved by the mayor. Then to decommission or to sunset a body would be the same thing. If it's created by resolution, there'd be a resolution to sunset it. If it's created by ordinance, there'd be an ordinance to sunset it. And it would go through the same process to terminate, if you will, a body that was created by this council.
Okay, thank you so much. That was my only question.
Sure.
There isn't anybody else on queue, so I'll just have one last final question for you, Mr. Clerk. If you can walk us through the process of modifying the standard bylaws and rules, I assume that's what we're approving today, so council has authority to make changes through amendments, if I'm correct.
Correct, Mr. Chair. So the request today is approve the standard bylaws. Then, as Ms. Hovland is working with each of those boards and commissions on the standard resolution to recreate Tiers 3 and Tier 4, we would come back to the body to say, this is the resolution to reestablish name of Tier 3 body. Here's the resolution establishing them. Here are the standard bylaws, which have been modified to fit their unique business needs, and here are the rules. And that would come as a package for the council to approve.
Awesome. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Clerk, and to the whole clerk department, and for helping us through this process. I know it's a lot of hard work.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, I will ask the clerk to file that report, and I'll move approval of this item. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and that motion carries. Our last item before we move on to committee reports is a resolution that Councilmember Wansley and I are bringing forward to support of the Minneapolis Park Board workers. I will call on Councilmember Wansley to talk about this item.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. So I believe all my colleagues are aware that the Park Board leadership, as well as their workers, have been in negotiations for a labor contract for several weeks now, which ultimately resulted in an impasse that led to the strike that's ongoing. Last week, I was contacted by both constituents as well as community members and leaders who asked what could City Council do to really support both our workers as well as the Park Board coming back to the bargaining table to really be responsive to many of the issues we've heard from the workers themselves. And basically this resolution is reflective of one of the avenues in which we can show up in this moment and encourage movements. This is also very timely. I think, earlier today, me and my colleagues had a chance to connect with some of our Park Board workers. And, it was consistently emphasized that we have some of the best parks in the country. They are recognized as among the best parks in the country. And our residents also understand that. And they also understand equally that it takes workers to maintain and staff those parks. So I know many of my residents who've reached out to me also want those workers to be paid fairly and to also have access to dignified workplace conditions. So with that, my voice is lost, so I'm just going to also pass it to you, Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you, Councilmember Wansley. I'll pass it to Vice Chair Chowdhury, and I can close us off unless more members get on queue.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. I really appreciate this resolution. I think that it's important to recognize that in 141 years of the Park Board system existing, this is the first time park workers are going on strike. And that requires us really feeling the weight of this moment, that our workers did everything possible to ask for what they need in order to do their job and live a dignified life, and be able to adequately collectively bargain for their rights. And they had to take it to the point of a strike. I know many folks have attended pickets and showed solidarity in that way. And I think it's important for us to take an extra step here in this moment. It's good to hear that Park Board leadership is back at the table and negotiations have started again, but we need the negotiations to be completed. I had a string of different phone calls and emails and text messages and tags online from neighbors across my ward, and I've heard from other members of this body that they've experienced the same about fallen trees in different areas. And they have shared those concerns, and they now know the reason why they're not getting picked up is because our park workers are fighting for a fair contract. And so we need to push for the end of this strike, and that's through a fair contract so we can return service to our constituents and ensure that the best park systems in the nation is also treating their workers, their arborists, cement finishers, park keepers, string of many other folks that make our parks possible are treated the best possible. So I will be happy to support this resolution. I would also like to ask the authors if I could be a co-author. I'm getting a nod from Councilmember Chavez. And I'll also just share with the body, I am planning on sending a letter over to some of our park board leadership, also just making an ask of them. I'll share it out to the rest of council members if they'd like to sign on. It's up to you if you'd like. I think it would be a great way for us to speak in one voice and share that we're in unity of making sure that our parks are kept well and our workers are treated the best that we can treat them in our city.
Thank you. If the clerks can please add Vice Chair Chowdhury as an author, we would greatly appreciate that. I'm proud to be an author of this resolution as well, which urges both parties to continue bargaining in good faith and reach an agreement that ends the strike, respects the contributions of our incredible park board workers, and ensures the continued excellence and success of our city's park and recreational facilities. We have been the best parks in this nation, and we are the best parks in this nation precisely because of our park board workers, and we need to stand up for them. And I'll pass it to Councilmember Rainville and then Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the city attorney, this seems unusual for us to micromanage a park board since they are part of our city government. I'm just wondering what your opinion is on this.
Mr. Chair, Councilmember Rainville, I mean, the Parks Department, the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board is a completely separate city entity that has complete jurisdiction over the management, administration, and governance of the park. So a resolution by this council doesn't have any legal effect in terms of, I mean, you just can't interfere with that authority. So any resolution is, more in the sort of nature of I won't say greeting card exactly, but an expression of the body, but does not actually fall within the council's jurisdiction and doesn't have any legal authority.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the words that were said before that I also think we have the best parks in the country. And some of that was careful planning over 100 years ago. But a lot of it is about the day-to-day work and the people that are put in the role to maintain it, whether temporary workers or year-round employees. And we all want to support them. I also hear that from park board commissioners that I've been in conversation with. I am not interested in taking a vote against them, but I do take our city attorney's words that she put in a memo to us yesterday particularly seriously, and I think we all should. Everybody here wants a fair contract. My role in this, because they are a separate entity and meddling in their affairs would be stepping on the toes of our park commissioners. My role in this is to be in conversation with Local 363, conversation with our park commissioners, and conversation with our park superintendent, as I have been. This is very different than expressions of support we've done in the past. This is part of the city, and I see formal action like this as being really difficult and risky and about a labor dispute. And for those less familiar, I don't consider myself an expert on labor disputes. Former Councilmember Goodman was a lot more expert than any of us were here, I think, in terms of labor negotiations and disputes. But I don't think that we can eliminate the risks here to outweigh the benefits. And I think that our own workings and relationships and the ways that we will hold everybody together in this moment is what's going to actually have an impact here instead of some resolution that we take a vote on. I am very pro-labor. We all are. That's what DFL, that's the L in DFL behind almost all of our names here. But I do think that it would be best if we move to remove this from the agenda and express the support in our own ways. So I will go ahead and make that motion and see if I have a second. I have not had an opportunity since yesterday evening to speak with any of you about this, but I will make that motion.
It has not been seconded, so the underlying motion is still before us. There is no one else on queue, so I will ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion of supporting this resolution.
Councilmember Payne.
Aye.
Wansley.
Aye.
Rainville.
Aye.
Vita.
Aye.
Ellison.
Aye.
Osman is absent. Cashman.
Aye.
Jenkins.
Aye.
Choktai.
Aye.
Koski. Palmisano.
No.
Vice Chair Chowdhury.
Aye.
Chair Chavez.
Aye.
There are 11 ayes and 1 nay.
The ayes have it, and this item is approved. Next, we will receive reports from standing committees on matters to be considered by the full council this Thursday. We will begin with the chair of the Administration and Enterprise Oversight Committee, Councilmember Wantley.
Chair Chavez, we have, I believe, 18 items coming from AO this cycle. The first is a passage of resolution for a gift acceptance from local progress of travel and lodging expenses. 2 is a passage of resolution for election judge and deputy city clerk appointments for the August 13, 2024 state primary. 3 is accepting bid for First Avenue South roadway reconstruction. 4 is accepting bid for window washing services at City Hall and Public Service Building. Number 5 is authorizing contracts with Neighborhood Health Source and St. David's Center for Children and Families for temporary assistance for needy families. Number 6 is authorizing contract with Short Elliott Hendrickson, Inc. for Southwest Pump Station Design and Construction Services. Number 7 is authorizing contract with Axon Enterprise, Inc. for body-worn cameras for regulatory services. 8 is authorizing contract with Lake Street Council for Lake Street Public Safety Coordinator Pilot Program Initiative. 9 is authorizing contract amendment with Burn Boiler and Mechanical Inc. to complete chiller replacement in the Ramp B parking structure. 10 is authorizing contract amendment for the Minneapolis Convention Center video surveillance upgrade. 11 is authorizing contract amendment with Riverview Windows Inc. for lead hazard control. Number 12 is authorizing contract amendment with Myovision Technologies Incorporated for traffic count processing services. 13 is authorizing contract amendment with Meyer Contracting, Inc. for 2nd Street North Sanitary Sewer Improvement Project. 14 is authorizing lease agreement with Highlight Triangle LLC for the Community Safety Center on 2228 Lake Street East. 15 is a vehicle no-fault benefit claim processing authorization for Bridget O'Connor. 16 is a legal settlement with Kelly Lynn as trustee for the heirs of Alan Lynn v. City of Minneapolis. 17 is a collective bargaining agreement with the Minneapolis Police Officers Federation. This was forwarded without recommendation. And then number 18 is a passage of resolution, gift acceptance from local progress of travel and lodging expenses. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Thank you. No one else is on queue, so I'll pass it on to the chair of the Budget Committee, Vice President Choktai.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Budget Committee is bringing forward one item to Thursday's council meeting. It is a resolution related to the public safety aid reallocation, and this item was forwarded without recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. No one else is on queue, so I'll pass it on to the Vice Chair of the Business, Housing, and Zoning Committee, Councilmember Ellison.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. The Biz Committee will be forwarding 14 items. One is approving an application for DB Doe. Another is approving an application for Barcelona Wine Bar. 3 is Modern Well, approving an application for them, rental hall license. 4 is for the Permanent Hippo, approving an application for late night food license, business operating conditions, etc. 6 is approving an application for Abby's Cafe. 6 and 7 are approving applications, extended hours for Raising Cane's, 2 different locations. 8 is the vacant building registration ordinance. 9 is a variance appeal. And the committee set this forward without recommendation, and I understand that staff are working to help us correct an error, so that should be done by full council. 10 is a conditional use permit appeal, and the committee denied the appeal and added 2 conditions regarding use of the lights for the land use application. 11 is liquor license approvals. 12 is liquor license renewals. 13 is Summer Jobs Connect Academy implementation grant for Step Up program. 14 is the Hennepin County Housing and Redevelopment Authority financial assistance for affordable housing projects. And that is it. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Councilmember Ellison. There is no one on queue, so I'll pass it on to the Chair of the Climate and Infrastructure Committee, Councilmember Cashman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Climate and Infrastructure Committee is bringing forward 6 items. Item number 1 is approving 2024 street lighting replacement project. Item number 2 is authorizing an agreement with Hennepin County for the Green Central Safe Routes to School project. Item number 3 is authorizing a contract with Canadian Pacific Kansas City for upgrading warning devices at the Upper Harbor Phase 1 public infrastructure project. Item number 4 is authorizing an amendment to an agreement with the Minnesota Department of Transportation to include additional audit provisions. Item number 5 is approving appropriation and revenue adjustments to the capital improvement program. Item number 6 is approving an agreement with Hennepin County for maintenance of sidewalks, signals, and lighting system at the 35W and East Hennepin ramps. And I'll stand for questions on these items.
Thank you, Councilmember Cashman. Nobody is on queue, so now I'll go on to our Intergovernmental Relations Committee Chair, Vice Chair Chowdhury.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. The Intergovernmental Relations Committee is bringing forward 1 item for approval. Approval of the proposed Blue Line Light Rail Extension, SDIS, comments and authorizing their transmittal to the Met Council. I just will note that staff has been working with Councilmember Rainville and I believe Councilmember Vita on adding additional comments that will be presented at full council for approval. I thank both council members and our staff for working on this, and I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Vice Chair. There is no one on queue, so lastly, I'll pass it on to the Vice Chair of the Public Health and Safety Committee, Councilmember Wansley.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. The Public Health and Safety Committee is bringing forward 6 items. The first item is accepting a grant from CenterPoint Energy for glucometer kits for our fire department. Number 2 is authorizing an agreement with Minneapolis Public Schools to conduct immunization-related outreach in order to update immunization records. 3 is authorizing the execution of an MOU between the city and Asian Media Access for delivery of the environmentally themed performance between water and cloud. 4 is directing the city auditor's office to undertake research and analysis to produce a national landscape analysis of other cities' drug overdose prevention strategies. 5 is authorizing the submittal of a grant application to the Minnesota Department of Human Services for culturally specific behavior health supports. And then number 6 is considering a total of 7 appointments and reappointments to the Community Commission on Police Oversight. This item was sent over without recommendations. With that, I will stand for any question.
Thank you, Councilmember Wansley. There is no one on queue, so With that, we've concluded all business to come before us today, and with no objection, I will declare this meeting adjourned.